Hello. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to say thank you very much for watching or messaging me about the podcast and saying that you've enjoyed listening to it. So I've not had an episode out in a while, but I've recorded a bunch and they've been really fun, very different conversations. My guest on today's episode is Chris Weir. I've known Chris for a while now, I think since like 2018, 2019. So if you enjoyed the episode today with Chris, I highly recommend that you check out his Fringe show. I was really excited to hear that he was doing his debut hour at the Fringe this year. The show is called FLUNG. I was speaking to him back in like March when he did a preview at the Glasgow Comedy Festival, and I went to see it, and the show was pretty much already finished in March, which is crazy. It is just one single story, so if you liked my previous show, welcome back. I think you would enjoy his show as well, from a storytelling perspective. It is also about like a romance, I guess, or a fling in his case, but it's really, really good. And Chris has just got so much jokes, and the frequency with which he packs his set with jokes just brings shame to us all. So it is by all means a show, but it is not showy. That's really, really hard to do, and he's done it with such ease and grace as well. I don't really know what I mean by that, but it's fucking great. It's called FLUNG, and it is at the Gilded Balloon every day, apart from one day probably, at 2:40. But I'll put a link in the description here. If you can't wait until then, and if you don't live in Edinburgh or for whatever reason don't go through to the Fringe throughout all of August, which does happen for a lot of people, Chris is doing a bunch of previews. One of which is on the 10th of July at the Stand Comedy Club here in Glasgow. So you'll be able to buy tickets on the Stand's website. Thanks very much for listening, and I really hope you enjoy my episode today with Chris Weir. My name is John Agasild. I'm a stand-up comedian living in Glasgow in Scotland. But I haven't always lived here. I was born and raised in Aberdeen in the northeast. I'm working on my next solo stand-up show, and I found myself writing and talking a lot about both of these cities. So I wanted to interview some other comedians about their hometowns, find out what they're like, why they left, why they stayed, and what home means to them. This is the Welcome Home podcast. So the reason that I'm doing the podcast is using it as a writing exercise to help me write my next show. Mm-hmm. So before I get into it, I wanted to ask you, how do you write?
Oh, and also to answer your question, does that mean I get writing credit on your next show?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. How do I write? Changes. Sometimes it's just kind of random thoughts going around in my head. Usually it's that. I usually make little notes in my phone, and then like a month later I'll look through them all, and there will be like a common thread that I wasn't really aware of. So
really?
So it's like kind of like a subconscious thing where I'm like, oh, I was really into like anime this month. I've never been into anime, but that's
I was going to say, I've never seen that anime stuff on stage.
It's coming. It's coming. But yeah, it's almost like my subconscious is usually thinking about certain things that I'm not aware of until like I look back. Or alternatively, I create a fake thread to link all the things together.
Oh, but everybody does that.
Yeah, that's the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it just notes app and then writing like, how do you I keep on saying this to people and it sounds so dumb, but how do you literally write?
Yeah, it usually is typing and stuff. I've never been one of those comedians that carries around a notebook or anything like that. I think I like typing just because I can alter the words a lot easier.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be the most complicated the most complicated answer.
No, it's pretty simple. And then occasionally I'll like come up with like a grander idea of something I want to talk about or like do, or like a concept, and then I have to like that's always the hardest thing when I do that, because then I have to like, it's easier to start micro and build into macro rather than go macro and have to figure out how you
it's easier to
brick by brick it.
Be like than be like what's funny about anime?
Yeah,
Instead
exactly.
Of being like,
rather than
I've made a couple of observations about anime, and I think I'm just going to do a 5-minute routine about anime.
That's exactly what it's like. So I much prefer that way. I have so many things that I have started and not finished because there are big concept ideas that I haven't taken the time to actually flesh out.
But sometimes it can be. It's so disappointing and reaffirming when you do take the time to flesh something out, and you're like, okay, I just needed 15 minutes to actually fucking look at this thing. Like, I have a bit where I've been like, I've not really truly cracked it, and I know what I'm saying is communicating like why it's funny. Mm-hmm. I'm communicating the idea of why it's funny, but there's something to it that I'm not hitting it at the right angle. Like, I'm not connecting.
So instead you're more just like explaining rather than...
No, I have like there are jokes in there, but they're not quite... I'm just like, this is not where I want it to be and where I need it to be. And for months and months and months I've not managed to get it. And I was like, okay, well, what about... And sometimes you think it's maybe it was just last night. We were watching something, and then I took like a 5-minute break, and then I went downstairs and had a cigarette, and I was like thinking about this, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll talk about that. I was like, that is funnier to me than the thing it was like just a couple of tags like on a joke that I thought really like opened it up.
Yes.
And I was like, that is funnier to me than what I'm doing. But if you just not even sit down and think about it, sometimes
have a smoke. Kids, if you're listening, have a smoke.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, this took me no time at all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if it's like how much of it is just, coincidence and effort, and how much of which you're giving each, or just time not thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's what I do love about comedy and writing, is that, even though I'm just like, how do you write, that's why I like asking that question, that there is no perfect way to do it,
and certainly not the way I do it. I was doing a show at the Stand like last year, and there was a kind of newer comedian who was kind of asking a few of the other comedians in the room, like, how much do you write a day? And I was like, a day? Like... He was like, do you write like every single day? And I was like,
you're like, which day?
Yeah, like he was like, do you write every week? And I was like, every week? This guy like shamed me in front of everybody, but then I think I'm very sporadic with it. I also like to go kind of like have kind of more of a hardcore writing binge, and then kind of not write for a while is kind of how it works, more because I'm busy. No, if I had no job or any other responsibilities, I would probably write every day or something like that, but now it's not possible to do that. I did take like 5 days off earlier this month, and I just wrote every single day for that, and
Great.
that was amazing.
Nice.
But literally taking annual leave to do more work is insane. It's not a feasible thing.
Yeah, but I mean, you say that it's work, and it is work because hopefully it is going to, garner some money.
Yeah, that's true.
But that it has a creative element.
No, it's enjoyable.
There's no feeling like a good day at work versus a day of writing and just being like, that's funny.
Yeah.
I'm funny.
Yeah.
Like, you never leave work really, like your day job being like, I'm funny. Like, or well, maybe you do.
I mean, maybe. Well, actually, today I wrote something and I sent it to like my boss, and he was like, "I love this," and it was like a funny phrase, and I was like, "Yeah, you do. Trust this funny bitch to be." I am one of those people though who says like, I need a full day to write, and then I write for like 20 minutes, and I'm like, "Cool, did it."
That's okay though.
And then I can go and do other things, but I need to have the day fully free without any other distractions.
Okay.
That really helps.
Sometimes if I am just like, I write a different wording of a line in a notebook, and that's all I've done for that day, I am like, well done.
Yes, I do the same thing. I like to congratulate myself even if I've done a very small
It's really
amount of work.
important.
No, but it is.
It's really, really important.
It sounds like I'm joking when I say that, but I do that.
It sounds like the most, like, and this is not how I talk, but the most millennial snowflake sort of self-congratulatory
participation
trophy mentality.
Yes.
But if you literally write 2 lines of something and it is but it's different wording, and you're like, we'll see how that hits tomorrow in my own head. Like, it does come from nowhere. It literally does come from nowhere.
You're just like
so
walking along the street.
anything is great.
You know who they never call a snowflake? That Shawshank Redemption guy who's like digging a tunnel one spoonful at a time. I mean, like, he's making very little progress very slowly. Nobody's calling him a snowflake. And
Exactly.
I essentially think we're him. We're trying to escape the prison of our own lives.
Wow, that is an incredible metaphor.
You're welcome.
And he does make it out.
Spoiler.
Oh shit, sorry.
I think it's okay. It's like 30 years old at this point. But there's got to be a moratorium on spoilers at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spoiler alerts even.
Do you feel like your pursuit and developing career of stand-up comedy is akin to being in jail for a crime you didn't commit?
Yes. The crime being not born rich. Why wasn't I born rich? Why do I have to do this day job? I just want to like have fun with my friends.
Well, speaking of being born rich, where were you born?
I was born in Hull in England.
Right.
Yes.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah. My parents were Scottish, though. They were just down there for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah. So we didn't stay there for that long.
Okay.
I have literally no memories of.
You have no memory of Hull?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
No.
And where are your parents from?
They're both from Edinburgh.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So soon after I was born, we moved back to Edinburgh. I say we as if I had like say in it, and I was like, I think it's time.
Well,
in my 4 weeks of life, yes, I've never been back to Hull either. I have
really
zero connection to it. Neither do my parents. I actually really don't know why they were there. Yeah.
Maybe they were spies.
I used to have that theory because
Really?
my dad was always very vague about his job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe let's move on. Let's move on. Have you seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon? It's so good, isn't it?
Oh, sorry. I've seen
you're talking about the original.
I've seen the Angelina Jolie and Brad version. The Donald Glover one. I haven't seen it yet.
So good.
Is it good?
It is genuinely really, really good. But I'm kind of being like, I was like, drop this subject because I'm like, people are spies.
I know.
People are spies.
And sometimes I've thought about becoming one just because like you get bored. I get bored sometimes and I'm like, maybe I should just, but then I think my issue.
I don't think you can get bored if you're a spy.
No, I mean, I get bored in regular life and I'm like, I should be a spy to make it more exciting.
Okay.
But I think my issue would be I would want to tell people about what I'd be doing every day.
How long do you think, how long do you think a mission lasts? The average mission?
God, it depends on the mission, I guess.
Yeah. But I just thought you were going to be like, about 3 weeks. That's how long it takes me to get bored.
I think like they work on it for like years, right? The spies, because like
depends on the mission. As you said.
It depends on the mission. So at some point, I would want to be like, you will not believe the shit I'm doing at work. I would want to say that to somebody, and then I wouldn't be able to tell them.
Right.
No.
So it's none of our business what your parents were doing in Hull,
No.
and they've never been back, probably because they killed a load of people there, and they can't get recognized there.
Where was it that the Russians killed like 2 people, like they poisoned people in that little English town? Where was that?
Some little shithole in England.
Could be Hull.
Could be Hull.
I don't
think it is.
I don't think it was Hull.
I'm trying to remember.
Hull, I think, has come up in the world. It got nominated like City of Culture one year or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So how old were you when you moved to Edinburgh? Did you say?
I think it was like in the first year of me being born.
Okay.
No memory of it.
Okay.
My earliest memories are actually when I lived in Indonesia.
Right. Okay.
Which is where we moved after Edinburgh.
Okay.
So when I was like 3 to when I was 5 is when I lived there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, your dad is not beating the I'm a spy allegations.
He worked for this environmental company.
Chris, I cannot have my podcast end after 5 episodes because I get assassinated because your dad's a spy and he needs me to shut the fuck up. You went to Indonesia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was that? What was that like? Do you remember? Do you remember what Indonesia was like?
Kind of. Well, I mean, I lived. So
I also could not tell you anything about Indonesia.
Yeah. Well, I mean, me too, basically, because we lived on like this compound in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And also, it was what I've been told. We lived on cursed land.
Wow.
Yeah, because apparently, and again, this is what I was told, but there's an Indonesian custom that when you start a new building project, you're supposed to slaughter a goat on the land. And BP did not do that. They were like, that's one environmental step we will not cross. So they built this building project, which was like a compound for all their workers.
We'll drown seagulls.
Yeah.
But slit a goat's throat?
No, one goat.
Ugh,
never.
Yuck.
We will not respect your local customs. So instead, they built this place, and then all the locals refused to work on it, refused to work on the land because they were too scared of the superstitions that arise when you don't slaughter a goat.
Oh my God.
And we moved out of it, and all the other expats did as well. Nobody moved into the buildings because they were terrified of like the curse or whatever. So basically the land took back the buildings. We got sent photos years later where our house is. There's just a tree growing through it now.
Wow.
Like my former house. Yeah, it got like full on Jumanji'd.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So that's my earliest memories of life.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing.
Do you remember any weird stuff happening?
Yeah.
When you were living there?
So I remember
on that land.
I remember going into the bathroom one night, and I was like peeing, and then I turned to look at the wall, and it was covered in geckos because it was like the coolest part of the house. So that was weird.
Oh wow, that is weird. But that sounds like scientifically
correct.
Yeah.
No. And then
if the gecko's spelled death.
No. Oh yes.
Or
no,
something.
It wasn't that.
Then that would be different.
There was a time though that I was with my brother and one of the neighbors, and a snake wrapped itself around my foot.
Whoa.
And it was like a super poisonous snake. And we were like hours from like a hospital or anything. And I just had to stay super still, and then it eventually just uncoiled and slithered away. But if it had bitten me, probably would have been dead. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. How old were you?
It was from when I was 3 to when I was 5. No idea when that snake incident happened, but yeah. Yeah. Crazy time.
Do you think that's crazy? That I'm just I'll just say what we're all thinking. I'm amazed that you just stayed still. I'm amazed
I
that
know.
you just stayed still.
I know.
That you had the discipline to just stay so still. But do you think, like, because I'm just like, oh, there's no way a kid would be able to do that.
I think
But
the
I think
neighbor
fear,
who is like fully grown said, like, don't move.
but the fear or the terror
Yeah.
of it
Yeah.
would help you stay still.
Yes.
And also a stranger as an authority figure telling you, a child, what to do is also scary in itself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I guess
so you might just be like, oh, fuck, shit, I don't want to pitch this.
Yeah. Or like something about their tone was like, I'm going to listen.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What a great story.
I guess I'm like really interested.
I guess you are.
Say?
I guess you are.
But I am
actually.
also cursed.
No, the land was cursed.
I know, but I grew up on the land. And we were the only people who lived in that land.
What do you mean you were the only people?
Because it was built for the BP expat community.
But there was But there was other expats.
Yes, in other houses, and we got our own house, and then nobody lived in it after us, I think.
But people were. It was the compound that was cursed, not just the house.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everybody on the compound is
Yeah.
cursed.
So, where did you go to after your parents were like, let's get out of here?
we so at that point we moved back to Edinburgh, and that's where I kind of spent the rest of my childhood. But we moved around a little bit as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're positive that your childhood home in Edinburgh wasn't cursed.
I mean, unless we brought something back with us, I don't think
That's
so.
just a hell of an assumption to make. That it's not cursed. I mean, I just assumed that this isn't.
I do have theory. Like,
cursed.
There's been stuff that's happened to me through my life, and I'm just like, Indonesian curse. I'm always like in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then
Really?
yeah, and then or it's like I often think that like I'm like an hour before. Or like I'm an hour late to what I need to be. Like if I turned up an hour earlier, like good things would have happened.
Oh,
you know?
okay.
And then the biggest.
I thought you're like, I'm always in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm an hour early for everything. I'm like, Chris, that's not really what that means.
I thought you were going to be like, I'm always in the wrong place.
That's just kind of annoying to some people who aren't ready yet to like welcome you.
I mean, I did turn up for this podcast and you were not ready.
Yeah, that is on me. That is on me. And don't get me started on why I wasn't.
It was the curse.
Ready. Yeah.
No,
the
the craziest example is so 2011. Sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but it is related to the curse. So
I'm there.
2011, I graduated from uni, right? And that summer, I believe it was 2011. It was either 2011 or 2012, but I think it's 2011. Not super exciting. Sorry. You can cut this if you need. There was the Euro Millions lottery kept rolling over that summer because nobody was winning it. And it got to the biggest prize it was ever going to be. Like it had ever been in existence. And it was something like £300 million or something like that. And I had been buying a ticket every single week and I kept not winning, but it kept rolling over because nobody was winning it. And I had just graduated from uni and I was like, this is my destiny. I'm going to win this money. And then it's going to set me up for the rest of my life and I'll never have to work and that'll be great. 1 week, I forgot to buy a ticket. And the Euro Millions was won by a Scot called Chris Weir.
No.
Yes.
Are you joking?
I'm not joking. Literally, it was won by Chris Weir.
That's crazy.
That money was supposed to be mine.
You should not be here talking to me right now.
I know.
You should be a much worse version, much worse, much richer version of yourself.
Coked up to the hilt.
Coked up, Miami.
Yeah.
Definitely Florida.
Yes.
Like,
my skin would be like a completely different color. Yeah, that'd be great. I know. And I was just like, well... You can't. The thing is, after that happens to you, you can't live life as if it's going to be.
Whatever that is, where a person with your name wins the lottery.
I was like, okay, now it's personal. No, like you can't live life thinking it's going to be good from here. Because I'm like, no, It's not going to be good. I try and have a nice day every day. That's the most I can hope for, John.
That was a turning point in your life.
Yeah. I think I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to get my dreams.
Right, okay.
Because somebody else called Chris Weir just got them.
Yeah. I cannot believe that.
I know. Like, literally, it was...
I cannot believe that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Have you played the lottery since?
No, I haven't. I like that. I was never a lottery person really, but because that summer it was like such a big thing, and I think it was like even in the news because it was just like it's like the biggest ever.
Yeah.
And I was like, there was something in me that was spurring me on to buy the tickets, and I was just like, I feel like genuinely I'm gonna win this.
Yeah.
And then I didn't because
and it's going to be part of my story.
Yeah.
That you're going to be like, have I ever played before? No, but I saw it on the TV. I saw it on the news, and I thought, hey, you got to be in it to win it. And then I bought a ticket every week.
Literally.
And I would go to the same shop, and I would blah, 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 blah. Well, we're just so happy for you, Chris. What are you going to do with the money first? Yeah.
Trampoline park. Yeah, no. Literally, I thought it was like a destiny thing, and then it was somebody else's destiny. Yeah.
I'm leaving so much debt just because I cannot believe it.
I know.
I cannot believe that. Wow. So why did with all due respect,
Trying to flatten this down. Hold on.
well, with all due respect, why did you bring that up?
Well, to do with the curse, which is where I grew up.
The curse, of course, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you lived in. So you moved from Indonesia to Edinburgh, and you said you moved around again. Where else?
Yeah, just around Edinburgh though. We just moved house quite a bit. So
okay.
I think by the time I turned 10, I've moved like 7 times or something, which is quite a lot.
Okay, all right, okay. Because this is such a ignorant thing, but I always thought that you lived in America.
No, a lot of people do.
A lot of people think.
A lot of people think that. I always just had quite a neutral Edinburgh accent. And then I would watch a lot of TV, and I would also put on accents for fun, just like with friends, you know.
I know how that goes.
Some lads played football. I did accent work.
Yeah.
And it just all kind of merged. So I get American, I get Irish, I get Canadian. One time a guy from New Zealand thought I was from New Zealand. So maybe I was just like mimicking his accent.
Back at
But yeah.
him.
But no, there's no...
You blacked out and just mocked this guy.
Yeah. I did, when I was in Indonesia, I think it was like on the compound there was maybe an American teacher, because I started school there as well.
Right, okay.
So maybe that was that, but I don't think so. I think it was more me just like putting on voices and them getting kind of mushed in with my normal voice. I don't think I ever had a strong Scottish accent, and neither do my siblings.
Right, okay.
So, yeah.
Right. How many siblings do you have?
3.
3. All right. Where are you in?
I'm the eldest.
You're the eldest.
Yes, and most disappointing.
You're the oldest and wisest, for sure. Yeah. Wow, that really surprised me. But then I'm just like dumb like everybody else. Like I'm just like,
yeah.
He sounds like he, be like, yeah, spent 7 years in New Jersey with his grandma or something.
Well, we're my mafia family.
Yeah. And then that explains your accent. But accents are so, I mean, such odd things that some people have stronger accents than others. I know people that get asked about their accent a lot. My girlfriend, that's the only person that I'm talking about, really. And I'm always like, it annoys me when people ask her about it, and like, because it's sort of in a very like, it like denies her of her identity sometimes. And they're like, oh, I thought you don't sound blah blah blah, and you're like, well, what does that sound like? There's so many.
I know.
Somebody in Shetland talking to somebody in like, in Glasgow sounds so different.
Yeah.
They do not sound the same.
From the same country, I know.
From the same country.
Yeah.
They do not sound the same. So what do you think I actually sound like? And it's also, I am probably talking to you, who is, I mean, well, because Lauren lives in another country that she's from. Sometimes it's different. But if Scottish people say that to you, they're like, we both sound the same, basically.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel that sometimes is that like an overreaction? Me say that, or do you?
No, I definitely
sometimes
feel like I betrayed the Scottish identity or something, or like I'm not Scottish enough for Scotland. It's an issue. I also get asked where I'm from about 3 to 4 times a week.
Right. Okay.
Which is just like, I've honestly considered printing out cards to just hand to people. I also made a New Year's resolution last year that
you have a very Scottish name.
Chris Weir, yeah. I mean, it's not like Ronald McWeir, but yeah. No, I don't know. But then at the same time, I've even considered like putting on a stronger Scottish accent. But then I'm like, but that's not even my voice then. So why would?
That's what got me here in the first
place.
Who
am I doing this for? I know. My new goal is to move to a country where I have to learn an entirely new language, and then like they won't be able to place my accent because I'll just be doing a new.
I see. Right. Okay.
A new language.
Okay. Like Spanish or something, where you have to like.
Yeah.
Like,
you really kind of have to pronounce the words. In a certain,
There's no half. There's no half accent.
There's no doing Spanish in a Scottish accent.
Yes.
So you gotta go full Spanish.
Yeah. You have such a lovely accent.
Oh, thank you.
You have such a nice voice.
Yes.
And such a great accent that's unique to you, but also it's very generally it's also very generally Scottish as well.
Yeah, apparently as well, when I'm more either drunk or tired, I sound more Scottish.
Really?
So, yeah. So that's what I'll do. If I ever,
you're like, that's a Scottish person, a drunk, tired man. You're like, oh, for fuck's sake. That's so funny. When I am more Scottish, I sound more Scottish.
I drink an iron brew. And
that's so funny.
If I ever have to do like an audition for a Scottish role, that's when I'm going to get drunk and wait till 3 a.m.
Stay up all night, drink all night.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Yeah. Yeah, I feel so dumb that I was like, so you're American? Just say you're American.
Everybody thinks that, but
Hull, Indonesia, cursed.
You're just waiting for
no
the New
America.
York.
What? Yeah.
You know, one time I was on a bad date, and I said something like, "Oh, I should go." I wanted to leave, and he was like, "Are you like heading back to the States soon?" And I was just like, "Yes." I was like, back to Oregon. And then he knew things about Oregon that I didn't know because I just picked a random state. And he was like, oh, there's so much cycling there. And I was like, yes, there is. And he was like, whereabouts do you stay in Oregon? And I was like, the North. Literally could not think of a place name.
He was like, there's so much cycling in Oregon. You're like, ugh, don't get me started.
Do not. Literally, please do not get me started.
Please don't. We hate them. We hate them, and they actually have gentrified the area. They've my parents' business has failed because of it. So I actually would rather not talk about the cyclists of Oregon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If you could just...
If you want a second date, stop fucking talking about the cycling culture.
Stop fucking talking about cycling and fly to Oregon. I will give you my address once you get there.
So you said you lived in the north, and was that it?
Yeah, I think that satisfied him. I think he was a bit like, okay.
Shut up and kiss me.
Yeah. I was like, no, I
won't. Yeah, because I was gonna say, have you ever just gone with it and pretended to be from America?
Yeah, and I was like, that was my plan. My New Year's resolution last year was, if anybody assumes, to create a story and just kind of get better at improvising by doing that. But actually, a lot of the time, most people
sounds
are like
somebody who is the son of a spy.
Yeah. I want to follow in Daddy's footsteps.
We're training you from a young age to be great at impersonating different accents and adopting personas.
You know, maybe that is where it comes from. They didn't realize I'd be such a slut for attention, though. Really fucked it with that. What was I gonna say?
You're if people assume stuff, you're gonna improvise.
Oh yeah, but then nobody really did. It was like I more just got. So where are you from? Rather than so where in America are you from? Because if they had said that, that's like me getting a suggestion from an audience member to be like, back in 1972. Daddy said.
Daddy said, I'm a spy. Yeah, that is. I mean, that's literally what this whole podcast is. It's like, so where are you from? Yeah.
Am I the hardest to place that you've had so far?
For sure, yeah, because I knew where everybody else was from. Almost exactly.
Yeah.
Almost exactly. Apart from Chris, because I didn't think I thought he'd lived in the same town.
Chris Weir.
Yeah, lottery winner Chris Weir.
The other lottery winner. She's actually a woman. It's 2024, John. Chris's can be women's.
It was 2011. It's 2011.
Right, in 2011 it was very
it's
progressive.
The summer of 2011, John. Women can be called Chris, and women can win the lottery.
Women did win the lottery. Chris and Colin Weir, they won the lottery.
Because you just say a Scot called Chris Weir.
Yeah.
And when you did, I understand why you would say that, because I think I would also say that. But when you said a Scot, I was like, oh, maybe he's not actually from Scotland. But that's what you would say.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've lived in Edinburgh pretty much most of your life.
Well, up until I was like 17, and then I went to London for uni.
I thought you were going to be like, and then I went to Oregon. And I went to Oregon. Motherfucker. You fucking.
The only time I've been to I went to America for 1 week.
I don't know where I am with you, Chris. I don't know where I stand with you.
You don't stand with me. You cycle with me if you're from Oregon. No, I went to London and for uni when I was 17.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And
that's really brave. I think.
Well, I'm actually kind of courageous.
I think you're kind of courageous and actually quite interesting.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you do? What did you go to?
I studied law.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you must have been really smart at school.
Yeah. And it's all gone.
Which university did you go to?
King's College London.
Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah, I had good grades in school.
When you said, I was like, is it actually going to be Cambridge? I was like, I thought you were just going to be like, yeah, Cambridge.
Cambridge, London, as you know. Cambridgeshire in London. No, I applied to Oxford and I didn't even get an interview. I know. I was like, what the fuck do I have to do? I had like all A's.
The curse.
Yeah, the curse. It
Chalk
was
it
the
up
curse.
To the curse.
Thank you.
Like, write in your letter. Probably won't get in because of the curse, but.
And that wasn't interesting enough for them to be
like
follow-up questions. So I applied for a few in London. I really wanted to get out of Edinburgh. And
why?
Because it was.
Had it up to here?
I had it up to here. Everybody from my school was either like studying in Edinburgh or Glasgow, and I really wanted to like just break away and like be my own person and like also just be gay and
right,
be gay separate to the wondering eyes of my former high schoolers. I didn't really want like the gossip and stuff like that, so I wanted to like get away and like suck some dick.
Yeah, okay,
that kind of thing.
And what better place to do that than
London? London, baby, yeah, as they say.
Cool, fair enough.
Yeah. So I got in.
How'd that work out?
It worked out well. John. The dicks were sucked.
Okay. Was the law studied?
The law was studied because you know what? I was such like a good.
The dick sucking to law studying ratio? ?
You know what? Good question. For the first couple of years, very much law studying was the priority. Then in my third year, I did like an exchange to Australia, where I also lived. Another country, still not America.
Cannot wait to hear about.
And I got to Australia, and my grades didn't matter that year. All I had to do was pass my exams. They didn't affect my degree at all. I know, it's so Australia. And that was my kind of like my slutty coming out year. I mean, I was already openly gay, but that was like me like
going for it,
the full hog, so to speak. And that very much the dick ratio is much higher than the law studying ratio. I actually almost failed. I got sent back to the UK because
Jesus Christ, that's a lot of dick.
I did so. I was
when the grades don't matter. Almost failed.
I know.
Jesus Christ.
Literally all I had to do was pass and I almost failed. It was really bad. What happened was I was drunk a lot. I was hooking up a lot. And then I also, for some reason, decided to binge watch the reality TV series The Hills. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I watched
The Hills. Came after Laguna Beach, the real OC.
Yes.
Which begat The Hills.
Yeah. So I watched all of it.
It was Lauren and
Audrina and Heidi.
Yeah.
And Whitney. The undersung
and
hero.
they were working in the fashion, working
with
world.
quotation marks, because they like showed up for half an hour a day and they'd be like, okay, I sent an email, I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
that's what I genuinely thought working was going to be like as well. They would also they would turn up for interviews. This is what I remember, and this is why I was so bad at interviews for so long. They would literally turn up for interviews and be like, I really want this job and I think I'd be really good at it. And they'd be like, okay, we're going to give you a shot. And I'd be like, wow, that's all you need to do for an interview. Turns out, no.
But weren't they doing internships?
Yes. Oh my God, really well remembered, John.
So I loved the OC.
Yeah. Oh, same. You know, I rewatched it last year.
No.
It was so good.
Lauren was like the other night. I'm not going to keep this in because it's so cringe, but being in a relationship, especially a heterosexual one, is just inherently cringe, I guess. But we were just like, we were both like at the same time, we were like, we need a cute new show.
Yes.
We were like, we need a cute new show.
Yeah.
We've got a heavy show on our hands.
What was the heavy show?
The Curse.
Oh,
We're
the Nathan
The Curse,
Fielder.
yeah.
I watched the first few episodes of that. I couldn't get into it.
It's so intense.
Yeah.
But we were like, we need a cute new show to like come down from.
Yeah, definitely.
Whatever. And Lauren was like, why don't we rewatch the OC? I've never seen it. And I was like, I don't know if I can. She was like, what about if I watch it and you just come in and out?
Yeah.
Because
John,
I was like, that's maybe the perfect way for me to do it. Because that's what she did when we first moved in here. And that's what she did with Mad Men. And I kind of came out. I kind of came in and out.
Lauren has really good taste.
She has excellent taste.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I would say like we absolutely so I rewatched it with Heather, you know Heather.
Right, okay.
And her fiance, Anna.
Right, okay.
And we like absolutely loved rewatching it. It was so enjoyable to rewatch. And also like there's stuff that's aged. This isn't in the podcast, right?
It could be.
I don't know. But there's stuff that aged really badly, but then there was like really funny bits, but it's also still a really good show.
Really?
It actually is. And what's weird about it is
that's what you want.
Yeah.
That's what you want from a rewatch of something from 2003
to 2007.
Yeah.
What's weird is it goes downhill in the middle, still enjoyable, but like not as good. The first season is incredible, but then the fourth season, the final season, is so good. Potentially,
is that when it skips time?
Doesn't skip time, but Marissa has died.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Like,
Shawshank Redemption. Fuck off.
But the OC is sacred. Wait, is this in the podcast? This is my question. Oh my god.
Is that when
she shoots Ryan's brother when that?
What?
Yeah.
The hell is going on? The dust has only just begun to fall. I thought you said you had no head voice. No, I think that is relevant. I think this is relevant. I will be feeling really good about myself on the day that I edit this if I leave that in.
Yeah. Okay, good.
But no, the OC is relevant to this conversation because you just take that shit in and you project that onto your expectations of childhood, especially being like Laguna Beach, the OC.
Yeah.
I live in fucking Edinburgh.
Yes.
Like, Jesus Christ. Like,
my life was so boring compared to theirs.
I could not live in a less cool place, even though Edinburgh is. It's an incredible place.
Yeah, I really took it for granted growing up there, and then it was only when
And Americans fucking love it.
I know. So you would think you'd think I'd love it. Coming from Oregon.
Yeah.
I fully took it for granted, and then when I went and lived in other places,
like
it was
Australia.
and also China and Italy. We'll get to it.
Oh my god!
But when I came back, it was only when I came back that I was like, this is actually quite a nice place to live.
Yeah. Because, well, the thing was I was going to add to get back to the hills in all seriousness.
Oh, yeah.
I think that they were just like, I think I'd be really good at it and give me a shot. Like, that is kind of all you need for an internship. And they must be so rich.
Yes.
That an internship is not to the detriment of their career. I mean, it's literally for the plot of the show.
Yeah, also,
and it's also not a big deal for them not to be earning money.
Yeah.
But were they? Can I just double check with you because you exec produced The Hills?
I did.
Were they working in the fashion industry?
They were
in LA.
Yes. And you know what's also
what?
Well, I
knew they would go to New York.
They'd go to New York like, for Fashion Week.
Yeah.
But they'd like get on a plane and they'd have to like get dressed to the other side of the country, and it'd be very exciting. The thing about The Hills as well was there was like 5 minutes of content in about 25 minutes of the show. Most of it would be long looks and exterior shots of LA. They worked in the fashion industry. I think Heidi worked in PR. This is what I'm really pulling up my memory now. By the way, so I watched like a month of this nonstop and then sat exams, and that's why I almost failed. Is like literally my brain was dead after watching that much of The Hills. It was the most vacuous thing I've ever seen in my life.
Whilst being in Australia.
Well,
whilst like all of the things that Australia, all of the experiences, wildlife and dick that Australia has to offer, and you're procrastinating and disassociating whilst watching the Hills
and not studying. I think I was broke. It was like there was a basically
Where did you live?
So I lived in 3 different places. I lived on
that's so Chris. That's so you.
So me.
Yeah.
So I live. I'm jumping ahead, but right now I live in a 1-bed flat for the first time ever. And before this, I calculated how many people I've lived with because I've moved around a lot, not including family. I've lived with 47 people.
What?
Yeah.
That's like
it's
the
too
cover
many.
of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Yes.
And that's just Chris's flatmates.
It's too many people.
Yeah.
So
does that include everybody in the compound?
No, I didn't think about that.
We're not even including.
No, this is just in my adult life since I moved out when I was 17.
Yeah.
Yes, but yeah, no. In Australia, I lived in halls for the first term. Then over summer, I lived with this guy who was a self-described witch, and then I moved into like an incredible like penthouse apartment for the final term, which was by far the nicest place I've ever lived.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where was that? Sorry.
So that was in St Kilda in Melbourne. The witch one was North Melbourne, and then the halls were like
it's all Melbourne.
Somewhere in the south. All in Melbourne. Sorry, that's all you needed. Melbourne.
That is, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, and what's Melbourne like? Melbourne.
Melbourne. I loved Melbourne. I don't know what it's like now, but I was there 2009 to 2010, and it was the time to be in Melbourne. It was like...
Is it over?
I don't know. I haven't been there.
Well, people love going there.
I need to go
People
again.
love moving and living there.
I want to go back and like revisit all the places that I used to go and just cry and have like an emotional week. It was like I had come from London, living in London for 2 years, and I thought that was like the most exciting place in the world.
About that, yeah.
And then I went to Melbourne, and it was more like kind of the vibe was just chilled. And I was like, oh, actually, this is better.
Yeah.
And it was still a really exciting city. It had great food and clubs and hot guys. And I loved it.
Very hot, I imagine.
Very hot.
And
and also
just
like
baking under the sun all day.
Yeah.
Surfing.
Yeah. And like, I will say it's like, in London, I feel like I didn't really get that much like attention or something. I don't think I had like a glow up or something over summer. But when I got to Australia, the guys were just... They liked me. They liked what I was serving, and I was like, "This is nice. I like not having to work."
Yeah.
A lot
Work
of
to get attention.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like they were open to it, and I was open to them.
Yeah,
and we just embraced.
Yeah, and you're exotic. A little
I
bit.
suppose, yeah, because I'm either Scottish or American, so either way, it's not the same country. Yeah. So yeah, it was fun. It was like at that time, it was just like the most exciting year of my life.
Oh my god,
it was crazy.
Why did you came back from Australia to graduate?
Yeah, I had one more year of
in Edinburgh. No, in London.
In London, yeah. So I came back to London and like hated London.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
It was like a complete flip. It was suddenly after living.
Is it just like this? Life doesn't have to be like this sort of
kind
thing?
of. It was like I could suddenly feel the entire like the stress.
I have kind of an anti-London. I'm a bit anti-London, which I want to shake off. I don't like. I don't like that about me.
Like, London can be really, really fun. It really just depends on your circle and whatnot. But for me, I think going straight from Australia to London, it was like very chill place, very stressful place. And I could really feel like the anxiety of the city, like in my bones. And then on top of that,
Australia,
I was just hanging 10. I never went surfing, but it was very much, it felt like I was living like surf life.
You've got the best coffee, but also somehow none of the anxiety, like the lack of anxiety, but the most strongest, best coffee in the world. Had it made. This doesn't make any sense.
I mean, maybe I was just quite drunk a lot of the time, but it seemed like everybody was having a great time.
You sound really Scottish in Australia. Yes. Guys are like, this Scottish guy is so hot and so Scottish.
Yes. Even to this day, an Australian accent, I have like Pavlovian conditioning where I just start salivating. I
hope lots of people are
Australians find me.
Yeah. Hey, well, there's a lot of comedy in Australia.
I know, and like kind of weird comedy that I really like alternative stuff.
Yeah, they have a lot of. There's a really big alternative scene there.
It's cool. Maybe I should just move there. Actually, you know what? I really want to.
This makes so much sense. Before we were talking about
running away.
Yeah. Before we started recording, you were like, "Oh, maybe I'm gonna do this year, or maybe I'll just run away."
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, this makes so much sense that you say that,
because I
like it is a bit, but you're also like,
I've done it before. I love to like quit everything and just move to a different country.
Oh yeah.
It's a real rush.
Yeah, I bet.
Because everything's fun when it's new. I think that's what I like. I like new stuff.
Mm-hmm. So London's really great if you've got a great circle.
Yes. When I moved back to London, I moved in. So everybody from my year of law had graduated because it was a 3-year course, but I extended by a year by doing the exchange. So when I came back, there was literally nobody on my course.
No wonder the grades didn't matter. They're kind of like, you're just extending this to have fun.
Literally, yeah. Although you did have to pass. Which
yeah.
You
just have to remember the stuff.
Yeah.
You have to remember it.
Which-
Not even learn anything new, just remember.
Also, it's Australian law, and I'm doing an English law degree. Like, how is this going to be helpful? It's so random that they allow it, but it was great. And actually, doing it made me realize that I didn't want to do law in life. So it was quite useful for that as well. I had just...
So was that... So that must have been quite hard, like, crash back down to earth, like, I don't want to do this, and I don't like this city.
Yeah. And then I also moved into a flat that with like these two people I didn't know, and one of them was quite mentally unstable. So it was quite a rough year. Actually, I didn't even finish the year in London. I was in that flat for like 5 months, couldn't handle it anymore, and moved out. And then I moved back to Edinburgh and commuted down to London for like 5 more weeks of classes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really rough final
year.
year.
In a hotel or something?
I stayed with friends, yeah, just like sleeping on their couches. And then for my exams, which I also had to come down for, I think those ones I did stay in a hotel because I was like, I can't be around people.
The most like chill circumstances. Yeah.
And because I had
exam conditions
moved back home, I hadn't had to pay rent for months, so I actually had money to like go to a hotel.
Nice.
Yeah. So it worked out that way, but it was a horrible last year of university.
Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean,
by the way, I'm loving this retrospective through my entire life. I didn't realize we were going to go this way.
I mean, well, that's kind of the thing. Like, I'm not really looking for, like, I am not really looking to people to divulge their life stories.
Too late.
I am just like, what was this place like? What's the personality of this place? Because that's what I'm trying to sort of drill down into in my show. But these places, they're just places where cities, towns, they're just locations where life happens.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but yeah. But that's what they are, and people are living their lives in all sorts of different places. Hull, Edinburgh, Australia, London, 4 very different places.
They are.
And yeah.
I like that you didn't say Indonesia amongst that. It's like, yeah, Hull and Edinburgh are very distinct.
But yeah, I'm not really wanting to. I'm not trying to ask people to sort of dig up old stuff or anything like that. It's just like, why were you there? That's what interests me. But yeah, I think that, like, a friend of mine recently moved to London and then is living there, and I think he's just having the time of his life.
So Robbie
No, but Robbie has moved there. I really wanted to get him on the podcast before he moved, because I was like, you're about to leave a city. You're at the most perfect time for me to talk to somebody about why somebody wants to leave a place.
Why is he going to London?
For work.
Ah, okay.
But
not to escape all his problems like me.
Where did you live in London? I don't really know London I don't know London well.
I lived a bunch of different places. The first year I was at Great Dover Street Apartments at Borough, which is like Zone 1. It's really near Old Kent Road, which is quite exciting to me because I Monopoly. And then second year is
that blue on Monopoly or brown?
Brown. It's the cheapest of the
That's
whole
what my
Monopoly.
mum always does. My mum's like, get the brown ones and then start building houses.
I do that too. They're so good. They're so easy to have hotels on. And then all the other players just fear pass and go.
Like brown. They do. Yeah.
But
smart move.
Mostly in London, I lived at Old Street, which is kind of like northeast central, right, really near Shoreditch, kind of like a cool area, but I didn't go to any of the cool places when I was there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I like the vibe of Old Street though. It was nice. It's completely different now though. I went back recently and like all the buildings are tall now, and they used to be like 2 stories.
Wow.
It's really weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must be interesting to have lived in a place that isn't your hometown. And then like now see change.
Yeah.
In that, especially a place that you do have an attachment to in some way.
What was weird was so I lived in London for like 4 years total, and then I would occasionally go back, but then obviously there was like a long period I didn't go back, and there was the pandemic where I couldn't go back. And then a couple of years I was down for some gigs, and it was the first time in London for years, and I didn't realize this, but I was walking around these familiar streets, but it was like walking around with somebody else's memories, because I felt like a completely different person to the person who was there before. So I was just like, I remember all of this, and I remembered like the smells. Like as soon as I was on the subway, I was like, oh my God, it's the smell of the subway. But it was like reactivating something in my brain that I didn't know was there.
Wow.
It was the most insane like feeling. I've never felt like that with anything else. But walking, and this is how I imagine it'll feel if I go back to Australia. But like it was just like this really, really kind of emotional, weird out of body experience where I'm like walking through these streets. Like I used to walk down the street, but I also didn't, because I'm not that person. It was really weird.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like such a incredible experience, very emotional, but you're also just like, I'm just walking down the street.
Yes!
Like, and it was the most incredible experience I've ever had.
Literally.
The time I walked down a street.
People must have been looking at me like, what the fuck is this guy on? I looked quite insane that day.
But that's kind of what that's exactly the sort of stuff I want to talk about on this podcast.
Oh, you're welcome then.
That is it. That you can't even describe what was significant about this place. And it is maybe just literally that you had walked down that exact street or turned this exact corner because you lived there and got the bus here or whatever.
Yeah.
That it's just in you. That this walk, this route is just in you so deeply that it's part of your chemical makeup as a person.
Basically is.
Yeah, because I have never spent. I think if I spent some time away from the UK or something, like, because I probably go back and visit like my mum every like few months or something, but if I spent like 2 years away from like the UK and then I went back there and like streets I've walked thousands of times, I would probably have a very, very strong reaction to that. But that's really interesting. It's also just kind of funny to just sort of romanticize your own life so intensely.
Yes.
Who else's life have you got to romanticize?
I wasn't doing it consciously as well. Like I was not expecting to have that reaction to London.
You're like, I'm just going to fucking go
to London. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to London. I'm reconnecting with myself. I'm going to find myself again.
Yes.
I lost myself there, and I'm going to find myself.
I'm going for comedy, and I'm going for me.
But wow, that is crazy. Yeah. That is crazy. I wonder what it would be like if you went back to Indonesia. And so
that I feel like I wouldn't have. I don't think I've got like enough memory of that. And I didn't have enough agency at that time as well, so it's like I wasn't in control.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Just like what
I'd be like, oh look, the armored guards are still here. Apparently it was patrolled by armored guards. I got told this later.
Right, okay. Yeah, you're just like, whatever. No big deal.
Hey guys.
Hey guys. Anything? No, nothing.
No, yeah.
Nothing.
Eyes are dry.
Not even a lump in my throat. Nothing. So was it, when you came back to Edinburgh, you're like, this is actually quite a nice city with exciting stuff to offer, but it's not crazily intense and...
Yeah, it was like a nice... So... Yes, I didn't...
And then the year after you came back from London, that's when you were like, that was the Euro Millions year.
Yeah.
Euro Millions.
Yeah, okay. Literally, it was a really bad time for me, John.
I'm sorry. I don't want to bring that up.
I was like in Australia withdrawal. I didn't win the Euro Millions. And then I was kind of bouncing between Edinburgh and London because I came back to Edinburgh after I graduated from uni. The week that I graduated from uni, the newspaper headline was unemployment at its worst in 17 years. And I was like, great. So the only time it would have been worse for me to apply for a job would be when I was 4 years old.
It's just that you are like, that you have in all seriousness been like, I'm cursed.
Yeah. It was that summer. I was like, yeah. So I was like, I couldn't get a job for like 6 months. And then I finally did.
Front page.
Yeah. Look at the front page. Just Chris Weir's face. I refuse to look at newspapers. So yeah, and then I finally did. I moved back to London for that job, and then I was miserable for a little while longer. Continued to be miserable. That was like the most lonely time I was in London, where I like had a job and I had a flat, and I knew some people, but I was like incredibly lonely.
I can imagine it being.
That's the thing, is like when it's such a big city with so many people, you're like, why am I lonely?
Yeah.
That was the last time I lived in London, and that's when I moved to China. That was a quit everything and move country.
Wow. You're like, this place is busy and I feel so lonely. Where to? China!
Because that was actually like literally it. I was like, I want to feel lonely for a good reason. So I might as well be lonely in China, where I don't speak the language and obviously don't know anybody, versus being around a bunch of people who I could speak to. Like, I was like lonely on purpose.
Because you could feel like, well, this is my fault because I'm not going out and I'm not at the bus stop being like,
yeah,
hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
I'm new in town.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Let's be friends.
But you can't do that in China. So I was like, perfect.
No.
It's justifiably lonely.
Right, okay. And what did you do in China?
Taught English.
Where did you live in China?
Chengdu. It's a city in the west.
Okay.
It's where all the pandas are.
Right.
It's the like biggest panda enclosure in the world or something. Yeah.
How big is it actually? Because I know they're really endangered.
There wasn't. You know what? They're not endangered anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is
they got like
2-year-old
moved down a
news that
category.
I just don't.
Yeah,
know
it was a
about.
few years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess
on, John.
they've been fucking. So yeah, no, I taught English in China.
It's just so funny and dumb to be like that and be like, yeah.
You know, I went to the panda enclosure when I was there, and like you got taught about pandas and their mating and stuff like that, and they deserve to be extinct. Like, pandas are so dumb. It's like they don't like to fuck, they don't like to eat, and when they do have babies, they attack their own babies. Like, they literally like just like, so the babies have to be taken away from the mothers because otherwise they will kill their own babies, basically.
What are these bears about?
And you know what else? It's like,
how did they get like this?
If they weren't so cute, we would not be trying to keep them alive. We would be like, you deserve to die, you dumb animals. They only eat bamboo, which has no nutritional qualities and takes 12 hours to digest. So they literally are eating something that has nothing, like no health benefits to them, and they can't digest properly. So because they spend so much time digesting, they just have to sleep all day because they're so tired because they have no energy. Like, literally, I was like, why are we... It's so ridiculous.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And then the irony of those pandas going to Edinburgh as well.
What? They went to Edinburgh. I went to that. It was a cultural exchange.
You're like,
I lived in the panda enclosure.
you're like, I'm gonna go over to China to do, and I'm gonna do some fucking because to make up for lost time, to make up for all the lack of fucking that these pandas have been doing.
Yeah.
So you taught English.
I taught English.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you were going to be purposefully lonely by not being able to speak the...
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I made friends.
Isn't it crazy just what we do to ourselves?
Yeah. Also, like, I was, like, in my early 20s feeling dramatic. And, I mean, I still feel dramatic sometimes. But, you know, during that time, it's like, just do anything.
Yeah.
Because you can. So...
But that's... You can. And why not?
Yeah.
It's very possible to do those things which fear tells us is reckless.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish I'd done more things like that a little bit.
I definitely don't regret the China
years.
It was good. I was only there for like half a year.
Okay.
I did like one semester of teaching. They like trained us as well in Beijing.
And what was that like? Did that end up being a lonely experience, or
not?
What are people like there? What are Chinese people like in China?
All Chinese people.
you know what I'm getting at from your experience.
They were very welcoming. Mostly the Chinese people that I spent time with were the teachers at my school, who were really, really lovely to me. I don't know how to like describe them in an overarching way. They were just very welcoming. There was, not with the teachers in my school, but there was some weirdness because Chengdu is like a massive city. It's like 11 million people. It's like double the population of Scotland. But it's not very westernized, or at least not a lot of Western people go there.
Okay.
And there's a cultural thing that exists, not with all Chinese people, obviously, but there is some like kind of like hero worshipping of white people. Okay. To the point that like some people bleach their skin to look more white and stuff like that, which you would see on the street. You would see people with bleached faces. So walking around as a white person, you would get quite a lot of attention because there wasn't a lot of other white people, even though it was such a massive city. So I would walk around the city and people would take pictures with me or just of me. People would come up to me and ask to be my friend, even though neither of us spoke each other's language.
Like, my plan's working out.
Yeah.
Or you're like, no, I came here to be lonely. I don't want friends. This is why we can't be friends.
And then I remember one time me and my flatmate, there were two other teachers at my school who were from the UK. So we all lived together. One time me and my flatmate were leaving H&M and this girl just saw us and just went, whoa. And I was just like, yeah, it's me.
I mean, there's obviously like some, like, I think it rightly or wrongly, I'm like, that is obviously like sad. Like as like there's, or not sad, there's something not right in all of that.
Yeah.
But and that's a very, very real experience that you've had, that you described very well. But it is also just very, very funny to me when that is in contrast with you just being like, I love attention.
Okay, you know what? Let me qualify that. I like justified attention. You know, like when you're getting attention for just being white, I'm like, I don't think that this doesn't feel great. And you know, the weird thing is, I saw this
like,
with.
I'm funny and interesting too.
That's why I want to be
like that.
Appreciate me for that.
Wait till you
see my skin. No, the weird thing is, because white people got like celebrated, it would kind of like warp the brains of some of the teachers, because they kind of started believing their own hype. Whoa. Even though they were literally just being hyped because they were white.
Weird.
Yeah. So the teachers that I lived with, they'd been there already for a semester, and they had just kind of gotten used to just everybody thinking that they were amazing and right about everything. So it was very weird when I arrived and they would say stuff to me and I'd be like, that doesn't make any sense. And they'd be like, they would almost like double take and be like, wait, nobody's questioned us in 6 months. It was very odd. It was a weird experience. I really liked it though. That was actually where I started writing.
Really?
Comedy, yeah. So.
And when you started writing, was it that you were consciously writing stand-up, or was it just writing like?
No.
Was it just like I'm just getting something out?
No, I never wanted to be a stand-up. I wanted to write scripted comedy. So I wanted like a TV show or something like that. I wanted to be like the next Tina Fey. So I would write just like lines of dialogue and random jokes and stuff like that, but it wasn't at all for stand-up.
Where were we before
China?
China. We were in China. So Yeah, so you want to get the so how long were you in Edinburgh when you returned from China?
For like a month.
Hey.
Yeah. I move around a lot.
With the plan to go away again, or...
So what happened was, in China, I started writing, and I convinced myself that I was like a genius writer.
Okay.
And I wrote a script that I was like, I'm going to submit this to BBC Writers' Room, which
BBC Italy.
I was like, I'm going to submit this to BBC Writers' Room. And I think at the time you had to post it from like a UK address. So I was like, I'll come back from China, I'll post it to this UK address, and then I'm just gonna have to wait like a couple months until they get back to me and like give me a job in their writers' room, which I was convinced I was getting, which I did not get. It turns out I was not a good writer because I had no. This was not curse. This was, I have written for 2 months and I'm not a good writer yet.
Okay.
Nobody had ever seen my writing. It's like I kept it to myself. It was a complete secret. I was just gonna, I think I'd convinced myself like I'll just become a writer and then be like, surprise guys, I actually write TV shows now.
You were gonna be like Fleabag, but before Flea.
Yeah,
before
I want to be
Flea
Tina
Wallach.
Fey. That was my inspo. But yeah, I would have been Fleabag if they just given me a shot. Anyway,
There's
I got
also probably some ideas in what you wrote.
No, yeah, I think like there was like the occasional joke in there that was useful, but it was a messy script. I remember reading it years later and being like, just full body shudder. Anyway, I got back to Edinburgh and I felt like I needed to like do something, so I found a random job in Italy that was also teaching English.
Do something like go to Italy.
Yeah. I think in my head I was like, I'll just lie on the beach all day and then I'll go teach one class, and because so it
like in the hills, but teaching English in Italy instead of being an intern at a fashion company.
Yes. In China, I only worked 6.5 hours a week total. So, I mean, I had lucked into a really, really good thing there, which is why I was able to...
What did you do?
I was...
The rest of the time?
Yeah, I just went home and wrote, and like literally, that was all they expected of me. It was like, I was teaching primary 1 and primary 2, but I only did 1.5 hour class with each of them a week, and there was like 13 classes, so it worked out as 6.5 hours a week.
What... No, but what did you do for like recreation in China?
Went out.
If you had loads of free time.
So I did like, it was like a whole big internship that it was on. It was like a teaching English internship. So I was in Chengdu with like 30 other interns. So we would meet up. There was an English pub quiz, which we would do every week, which is really fun. We'd go for food, we'd go for drinks, we'd go out clubbing and stuff like that. I I did get viral famous and had to do like a little bit of press and charity work as well.
What happened?
This is quite a long story. What happened was, so my school asked me and the 2 other English teachers who were from the UK if we would put on like a presentation for the students. That's what they called it, a presentation. And there was absolutely no specification given as to what the presentation would be. And I like literally hadn't thought about it, but one of the guys, he was like, what if we went around the city and filmed ourselves dancing to Gangnam Style, which had just come out and was very popular. So I was like, sure. So then, and we literally got a day off classes teaching.
Sure. And then I said, sure.
I can't.
You're a minor character. You're both a major and minor character in this story.
I cannot explain to you how passive I was at this. I was like, sure, you just point me where I need to go.
You're like, yeah, that sounds like overtime. Right, this is more than my 6.5 hours.
Because it took like an entire day to film and I only had like 2 classes that day. I was like, that would have been 1 hour of work. Anyway, It was way too much
I'm
work.
a genius writer. I need to get back to
To my script.
Exactly. This great script that I'm writing.
Which, by the way, the script became about this experience. So what happened was we filmed ourselves around the city dancing to Gangnam Style. We'd also dressed up kind of like K-pop stars, like very bright colors and stuff like that. And we were doing like our final bit of filming on the subway. And when we went into the subway, there was a news crew there.
What's the subway like in China?
Very, very, very clean, very high tech.
Like the new Glasgow subways.
Yes, exactly like that. Every bus and subway train in Chengdu had a screen, and they would like play news and stuff like that. So you just could like have entertainment while you traveled, which is really nice. So basically, this news crew were doing a feature for the metro on subway style. So they saw us in our like colorful outfits, and we were like, "Hey, could we take pictures of you for like this article that we're doing for the website?" And we were like, "Sure." And then they asked us what we were doing, and we explained, we're like making this video of us dancing around Chengdu to Gangnam Style, and it's like a celebration of the city, basically. And then
it's a celebration of the city.
I think that was the pitch, basically. I can't even remember because it was like all the
different.
It was all the
landmarks?
touristy locations of Chengdu. Yes, it wasn't like we were in a random alley.
I take it back. It was a celebration.
It was a celebration of the city. So they were like, "Oh, can we like take some pictures of you like on the subway and stuff like that while you're doing your dance?" And we were like, "Sure, why not?" Again, so passive. It was not an active character whatsoever. And then basically we woke up the next day and we were on the front cover of the newspaper. Literally, we were like, sorry, what? And then
this is in comparison to the last front cover of the newspaper that featured
Yes!
this podcast being like unemployment at a record low in 14 years. You're like,
me.
I'm famous.
Yeah.
This is more like it.
Famous in China 1 year later. Who says millennials can't get a job? So, yeah, and then news crews wanted to interview us. We did like an interview for the news, and then we were on the news that night, I think. I can't remember the full schedule of this. We were on the news
The Metro News or the
actual news, like the news.
They showed this in buildings,
Yeah,
not just vehicles.
Fully. And then we finally, like, I think the other guy like cut together the video of like the clips, and he sent it to the news stations, and then it basically ended up getting played on all of those screens that were on buses and trains across the city. So we were being played to like 11 million people dancing to Gangnam Style around Chengdu. And it kind of like, it was so insane. Well, the weirdest thing was like at one point I was walking down the street and somebody just saw me and started dancing Gangnam Style at me, and I was like, that is me. I am Psy.
Yeah. Imagine how Psy feels.
I know. It really stole his thunder. Yeah, and then we did more interviews, and then basically one of the guy who was also the other...
Did you have somebody translating?
So the two other guys, because they'd been there for 6 months longer than me, they spoke and kind of understood, so they could kind of translate, but I did not know what was going on. Again, the most passive. But I was also up for like whatever followed, because I was just like, I'm on an adventure. One of the guys got really freaked out by all the attention we were getting, and he basically was like, I don't want to do any more interviews, I don't want to do any more press or anything like that. Shut it down. So we basically had to reject everything.
You were like, shut what down?
I was like, hello.
Shut what down? This is just got
we are Gangnam Style.
This is just a runaway train.
You can't stop it. I know. We ended up doing one more thing, which was one thing that we all wanted to do. We all got asked to dance dressed up as giant pandas for charity.
No wonder you hate pandas.
I know, and it was for Chengdu Pambassadors, which is a terrible name.
Pambassadors.
Like panda and ambassador, but Pambassador.
Pambassador.
I don't think it works. No offense to the organization. But yeah, so we dressed up as giant pandas and danced Gangnam Style as giant pandas, and that video clip exists somewhere. And yeah, helped raise money, and like I said earlier, no longer endangered. So
Coincidence? I think
I
not.
think I did it. You're welcome, pandas. You don't deserve it, but you're welcome.
Yeah. Wow.
And then we hung up our Gangnam Style capes.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah.
What a story.
How did I get onto that? It was
China.
something to do with China and writing and
China and
yes, writing. So that was what the script was about, was
yeah,
being famous in China.
And you'd moved back and you had to post the script off.
Posted the script,
and then you were like, well, it's going to be a couple of months until they get back to me and give me my TV show,
my extreme fame.
Yeah. So because is that because you had been worshipped as a white man in China?
Probably.
And just become like really, really, really famous?
Yeah, I thought it didn't affect
and you're
me.
like, yeah, everybody's, the BBC are probably just going to be like,
Yeah.
let's give this.
I'm gonna talk to Netflix. You guys haven't heard of Netflix, but it's gonna be huge. It's 2012.
And in the end, the pandas are no longer endangered.
Yeah.
Fade to black.
I think, I probably had an overinflated sense of like my own wonder.
But even though that is what happened. That is what happened.
It is what happened. So I just thought, I'm going to go to Italy and I'm going to have the best time, because of course I will.
Of course you will.
It's fucking Italy.
Yeah.
And I had the worst time.
No!
Yes!
That is not what I wanted to hear.
I know. So this is kind of like the end of my travels. I moved back to Edinburgh after this. But basically I went to Italy. And it was like another teaching English thing. And they were like, come to Italy, we'll put you up in a hotel. And then the next day we'll like give you a range of flats to choose from. And you can rent one of them. And then we'll start classes and stuff like that. And I was like, sounds amazing. So I arrived. It was pouring rain. I go to this hotel. I sleep.
So where was this?
This was a city called Messina, which is
I've heard of it.
in Sicily.
Oh, right, okay.
And it's the bit that's like closest to the mainland.
A friend of mine
Italy.
was just in Sicily, yeah.
Yeah. So
He says that in Sicily they have their own version of Empire biscuits.
I didn't have one.
Where it's a saint of a woman who had her breasts chopped off, and these biscuits represent her breasts.
Oh,
and they look like Italian Empire biscuits.
That's creepy.
It is.
Well, I didn't have one of those while I was there, but I don't know if I'll be able to enjoy Empire biscuits as much. No, they have always looked kind of booby though.
They do. Yeah, for sure.
So like other parts of Sicily, I would rate. You know, like Catania is quite nice. Siracusa down the bottom, visited that. But I was in Messina, which is like kind of a weird city. It was kind of like a ghost town. Stay with me.
What do you mean?
The city itself was one that people traveled into work.
And I'm asking that because I'm asking you to elaborate on that. How do you differentiate a ghost town from a cursed compound?
Okay, yeah.
You see where I'm just trying to get a bit of...
They're very different. So, cursed compound, unmistakably cursed. This, by ghost city, I mean people traveled into work during the week and then they would leave and they would live in the outside villages of the city. Okay. So they would like rent a flat to live in during the week and then they would leave. So during the weekends, my free time, everything was shut, no people. Occasionally cruises would stop by, tourists would come for a few hours and then leave. But essentially it was like completely deserted.
Whoa.
So there was
like when stuff was like during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I know not that extreme.
Not that extreme, but pretty much like everything was closed. There was nothing to do. I was incredibly bored. What ended up happening with my living situation was I arrived, they took me to one terrible flat and I was like, no thanks, where's the next one? And they were like, actually, this is the only one we found for you and you have to either take it or continue to pay for the hotel yourself until we find you another one. And I was like, I guess I have to take it then because I have no money. I had no money, and I had to live in this horrible flat which had no windows. It was a cave. Literally,
the entire flat had no windows.
My bedroom had a window. That was the only window in the entire flat. Literally, no other window. There was...
How?
It was the interior of a building. But my bedroom window only looked into a courtyard, and it was like... Basically, if I tilted my head to like the maximum, I could see the sky.
Okay.
That was as much as I got from... It was horrible.
So you think your flat was... Your apartment was surrounded by other apartments.
Yeah,
in the building.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like the courtyard that my window looked out on was also just more buildings. So it was like,
God,
it was just horrible. There was no kitchen.
What?
Basically.
How is that?
I don't
Look
know.
at my hand. I'm there.
You're very Italian.
I'm in Messina. How can that be the case when there is such when nobody lives there at the weekend? Can your accommodation be so shit?
I know, and that was the only place they'd found as well.
And that seems like indicative of a building like that. Seems indicative of like a major housing crisis. Like, why would you build something like that?
Yeah, I know.
You had...
Well, maybe, like, those flats could exist because people only stayed in them for 4 days a week. So, like, technically there were flatmates, but they were never there. And even during the weeks they wouldn't travel in, a lot of the time they would just stay in their villages. So, I lived in this flat almost by myself.
Oh, my God.
There was... Hot water lasted for about 2 minutes. So, it was... freezing cold whenever I took a shower, and because because there was no like window or anything, like the heat of Italy did not permeate this flat. It was freezing, so I was freezing in Italy in a freezing cold flat, freezing cold water. There was no kitchen. There was like literally 2 hobs, no oven, nothing. When I moved in, I was like, could I get maybe a washing machine? Because like this was a flat that people are just not living in. It was like somewhere you stay as temporary accommodation to work in the city, basically. I think that's what it was built for, or what it was being used for. Okay. But I had to live there full time, and I was like, how can I live here?
How could you even live there if you worked there 4 days a week? You still need like a hot shower.
I know,
to cook dinner. I mean,
there was
maybe
also
you'd bring dirty washing home to the end of the week.
Yeah. There was no internet as well, so I felt completely isolated on an island in this completely empty city. Like, it was so awful. And then...
It sounds like a Truman Show, like plan against you.
It was really bad. And then, because I'd spent all my money getting out there and paying for the rent and stuff like that, I literally had, I think, about €6 a day to live on for about... Because this is also what happened. I'm remembering as I'm telling you this. I found out that they weren't going to pay me at the end of the month. They were going to pay me at the end of the following month. But because I had joined halfway through the month, it meant that I started work in the middle of March. They first paid me at the end of April, but only for half of March. So... because I'd only worked half of March. So the first time I got a full month's salary, was at the end of May, 2.5 months into me living there. So I was living on literally €5 a day for like 2.5 months with no internet, with no like ability to enjoy myself or go anywhere else. I couldn't travel anywhere else because I didn't have the money for it.
In a city where people leave.
With no people. It was insane. And it gets worse. It gets worse. At the 2.5 months mark, I found out all the pandas in Changchun have died. We're dead.
No, I managed to get a newspaper from an old man because I couldn't afford the newspaper.
I said, Panda Morte.
And I picked...
No, at the 2.5 month mark, I finally got my first full salary and was like, oh my God, I can finally like leave the city and go somewhere on the weekend or have some fun or something. This is going to sound extreme. I got a double ear infection and I went deaf.
Join
Like-
the dots for me.
I don't know how the ear infection happened. I think it was something to do with my bathwater, weirdly, because they
Bathwater?
they asked me. Yeah, I don't, because I had like water had gotten in my ears, but I was like, how is this? Anyway, I got a really bad ear infection, and I was
in a bath in another place.
No,
Or a bath
in my
the-
own bath.
But you
I
said
was
it was
like-
freezing cold.
Yeah, I was that. So what happened was I had about 2 minutes of hot water, so I would fill the bath to like this level, and it's about 10 centimeters, and I would literally rotate my body around the water to clean myself. It was that bad.
That's very sad.
It was a real low point. So then,
But there's a point where you're like, this is actually in a bath. This is actually quite a lot of water. You know, like it's a bath. There's quite a lot of water to be had here.
yeah, it wasn't.
You know, you started I can imagine myself justifying it, being like, yeah, this is actually quite a lot of water. If I poured this into I'd probably pour this into a kettle. Probably fill up a kettle. So this is a body's worth of water. Sure. Showers are so wasteful. Jesus.
There wasn't a kettle either, obviously. There was nothing. I went deaf, and then it also happened like during a class I was teaching. I like all of a sudden it was like hearing my students through a drum, and I was like, I'm sorry, what is happening here? I like made it to the end of the class, and then I remember going home, and I
made it to the end of the class,
just like
much to the students' detriment.
yeah, they did not learn anything in that class. I was like, you know what? In this class, we will just speak Italian, and that's fine. You guys go ahead without me. Yeah, and I went to the pharmacy, and I remember like I have no idea how loud I was speaking because I couldn't hear a single thing. But I remember just being like, infezione dell'orecchie. They gave me some medicine. It like drops, put it in my ears. They became so painful. Like it was the wrong medicine. And basically like I had like searing pain in my ears. And then I basically went.
It's also just horrible.
It was rough.
It's so painful.
And then I went fully deaf at that point. And then I remember having like this insane fever dream for like hours and hours and hours. And the only thing I could think was like, I can't get on a plane to leave because my ears are in so much pain that the pressure will like ruin my ears if I went up on a plane or anything. So I was like, all I could think was, I'm literally trapped on this island. I'm trapped on this island. I'm trapped on this island. For like 10 hours, I was in like a fever, like nightmare, cyclic thoughts. It was horrible. And then I like gradually regained hearing over the course of a month. And then, it took ages. And then at the end of that month,
and you can hear again in the quietest town in Italy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was like, what's the difference? No, at the end of the month, I was like, okay, I'm finally going to take a trip. I went to Syracuse at the bottom of Italy with like a couple of the other teachers, and I fell out of a bunk bed and broke my nose. So I spent the remainder of my time in Italy with like a broken nose. I didn't go to the hospital as well because I kind of became delirious with like blood loss, and none of the other teachers did anything.
They didn't do anything.
No. One of the teachers, she was on her period, and she was like, could you clean up this blood because it's making me feel queasy? And I was still like bleeding, like profusely bleeding out of my nose.
Imagine if you had said that to her.
I know. Could you clean up some of this blood?
Can you actually clean up some of your blood? Because it's making me feel a bit queasy because it's just reminding me of this time I broke my nose.
Yeah. As in right now.
It reminded me of this time I broke my nose.
Currently.
Yeah, which is happening just now.
So I was in shock, so I just listened to what she said. So I was cleaning up the blood while spurting out more blood. It was like comical. It was like Charlie Chaplin. And then I passed out from blood loss, and it was crazy, yeah. And then when I woke up the next day, it's like the blood had like clotted in my nose and like kind of. Luckily, I found out later that you're not supposed to do that because you can have like a aneurysm and die. But you're supposed to go to the hospital when you break your nose. It turns out I didn't have like clear thoughts at the time.
No.
And the people around me weren't thinking.
This bitch is on her period.
Yeah. Fuck it. It was probably because she was menstruating that I fell out of the bed. Yeah, anyway, and then I had a broken nose for like a few weeks, and I never got it fixed or anything. I think it actually made my nose look better, but it's still broken. If I like move my nose in a certain way, you can kind of see there's like the cartilage is off center, so that's that. And then I went back to Edinburgh and it was like, I'm never leaving this country again.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. By the way, I'm skipping over a ton of stuff that also happened in Italy, but those are the highlights.
And yeah, what do you think? What do you think of Edinburgh then?
I like Edinburgh. I mean, I live in Glasgow now.
Yeah.
But I've lived in Glasgow for only like 9 months, and I've lived in Edinburgh for many, many years.
Many years.
I do like Edinburgh. Coming back to it, I was like, oh, this is actually a very, very beautiful city with lots of like culture. And I also like completely took for granted the Fringe growing up.
Yeah.
Because I was one of those Edinburgh people who was like, get the fuck out of my city.
Sure.
Like, I want the buses to run properly.
Sure.
You're ruining everything. Ruining everything. So stuff like that, like the Fringe, I really appreciate now. And yeah, and like all the different types of food you can eat there, and it's very progressive as a city. That was the other thing in Italy. I experienced like the most racism and homophobia I've ever experienced in any place.
A huge come down from China where you're being worshipped.
Yes,
being white.
It was like the good kind of racism. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was like. I just had a much higher appreciation for Edinburgh after going through all the countries in the world, literally every country.
And did you, as somebody from Edinburgh, what do you think like is this is something I've never really managed to figure out, and there is like, you know, for like I do sometimes indulge the sort of like Edinburgh versus Glasgow thing, but sometimes I find it difficult to get a handle on like the personality of people in Edinburgh.
Yeah,
because I think it's so tourist heavy. But is that not the case as somebody who's lived there and is from there?
Yeah, I wouldn't say. It's weird. I think it's touristy in like the university obviously draws a lot of people, but I'm not hanging out with like students. So when I was living there, I was, I guess, hanging out with, some people from, I'm not being concise or clear on this. I would say that the difference, now that I've experienced a different city in Scotland, is there is a certain like closed offness to people in Edinburgh, I would say. Maybe it's reactionary to all the tourists that come to Edinburgh, but definitely in Glasgow, I feel myself opening up as a person, weirdly. Okay. And I think that's in response to the people of the city just being kind of more friendly or more talkative. Not to shit on Edinburgh. I do like Edinburgh. But I think there is a certain...
Do you think that's like we're going to keep parts of the city for ourselves and not let tourists overrun it and ruin it? Because you can't blame Edinburgh people for thinking that.
Yeah,
given the Fringe, and that for a whole month of their year, it's taken over.
The population gets tripled,
and the rest of the year, so much tourists pillage the resources.
Yeah, but here's the thing: city. I do think Edinburgh people are nice and friendly. It's just like they have a slightly, they're just slightly more closed off. They're slightly more in their shell. So it's not like a tourist walks up to them and says, "Hey," and they spit in their face.
Yeah.
It's like if a tourist walks up to them and asks them something, they'll respond and give a friendly response, and maybe even being open to furthering the relationship.
Yeah.
But they're maybe not going to volunteer information without being approached.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a Glasgow person would just go up to someone and be like, "Are you lost, mate? It's this way," type thing.
Yeah.
And
comparing any like city's personality to Glasgow, it's not a fair comparison because it is so like gregarious, warm, and like and very proud of the city as well, and proud of the city's people. It's just such a stark contrast to so many other cities. But that's interesting. I'm glad that I'm glad that I had a person from Edinburgh that was able to clear that up or confirm and like confirm some of my sort of suspicions there. So
would you like a person from America to describe?
The other thing
was that what you were hoping?
Because you hang out with Heather and Crystal, I was kind of like,
I think that doesn't help.
You
know what?
That doesn't fucking help.
I think prior to hanging out with them,
I can't wait for people to watch this podcast and
what? No,
it's all cleared up.
Yeah,
it's all cleared up.
The mystery is solved.
You're welcome for providing you with this platform to.
It's good journalism.
So with that, in terms of telling me about what people from Edinburgh are like, and I think I told you about this. Can you tell me what a home comfort is to you? Like something that's comforting that reminds you of home, or it may just be something that you do at home to relax, or
I was thinking about this and
like binge all of the hills.
Oh my god, no, never again. I kind of avoid reality TV as a result of me almost failing my exams from watching that. Like it is still in there. Lately my home comfort is taking baths, which I've never really been a bath person, and now I am. It's not a super exciting one.
It makes sense considering your Italian bath experience.
Yes, I can finally have good. Although actually,
you're not rolling around.
God, that was
in an inch of water, in an inch of freezing cold water.
It's a very visual representation of a low point. Very low ebb. Just
baths are nice.
Literally like a dog bowl of water.
Yeah. Baths are nice.
Nice.
One flat I was in, I just got into baths for a while, and I just found it really, really, just really relaxing. And I was just like, and it doesn't take any time to do.
No.
And it's
you do other stuff while it fills up, and then you just chill.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think especially just because it's been the winter, I've like needed it to feel like I'm alive still.
Oh right.
I went right at the beginning of the winter. I went to Gran Canaria, and it was like 30 degrees, and then I came back to Scotland, and it was -5 degrees. And I don't think a body should go through that level of a drop in temperature, because I went into like full on shock, and I've kind of not recovered ever since. I've just been like, I don't know why I still live in Scotland. I've lived in so many countries in the world, and I've settled here where it is so cold, and I literally I don't think my body functions correctly in winter. So I basically, a bath is just to keep me alive.
That's a great answer. And what is home truth?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that is just what you said. What you said about people from Edinburgh.
I think. I'll also like. I think.
Do you have that's maybe also a criticism of people from Edinburgh.
I mean, they're slightly harder on the outside, but that's okay. I do like kind of feeling more open as a person in Glasgow. It's quite nice. I would say another thing is like, I feel like in Scotland in general, I think the kind of vibe that you get in media representation is like misery is a lot of the thing. And I feel like You can have fun and joy as a Scot, but you just have to leave Scotland to do it. And that's a home truth.
That's the whole truth. And you have found, and you should know, having found so much joy.
Yeah. Italy notwithstanding.
and you've found so much joy and friendship and great experiences on all your travels.
My travels.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.